5 Texas Rangers pose at a camp near Alice, Texas, in a Hall of Fame record. The image invites us to revisit myths. For those who lived that time, skill was what separated a gunfighter from a showman. In a real duel, it wasn't the fast draw from the movies that won, but the shot that hit the target. The difference between telling stories and surviving. On June 17, 1876, in Montana Territory, General George Crook's column descended the valley and met Lakota and Cheyenne resistance. Crazy Horse led the clash. Sitting Bull united the groups. The battle alternated advances and retreats and held back Crook's offensive, while the cry, "Bunch of Sioux," reverberated as both warning and omen. 26 years younger, Zoe Tilghman died in 1964. When Bill, her husband, fell at age 70, in disguise in Cromwell, Oklahoma in November 1924, she turned grief into duty. She collected memories, documents, and testimonies, organized archives, published accounts, and ensured his public and private journey would not be lost. Pat Garrett remains remembered in the Old West, but history almost erased his first wife, Juanita Martinez Garrett. Dead and buried in Fort Sumner in 1879, she was left without a marked grave. On September 25, 2021, the Western History Association, with support from descendants, installed a new headstone and restored her name in the historic cemetery. In 1919, in Miles City, Montana, 2 old acquaintances met again in front of the camera, Cowboy Teddy Blue Abbott and artist Charles M. Russell. More than friendship, there was partnership. With Nancy, Russell welcomed and edited Abbott's memories, activated contacts, exchanged letters, raised funds, and circulated in book form Life on the Frontier. In 1876, in Wichita, an accident almost changed Wyatt Earp's fate. The revolver slipped from the holster, hit the hammer, and fired, tearing his coat and flying through the Customs House saloon roof. Years later, in 1881, in Tombstone, John Behan dropped his Colt. The shot passed close and burned William Breckinridge, a reminder of how chance weighed on the frontier. Built in 1939 near Tucson, in the Arizona desert, old Tucson studios became a frequent stage for westerns, with frontier streets recreated for filming. There came to life Gunfight at the OK Corral, 1957, Rio Bravo, 1959, and Tombstone, 1993. The captured scene shows a stagecoach crossing the set, with extras in action in the Old West. Billy the Kid at last will have the farewell he lacked after 144 years of waiting. In 1881, 170 people watched over the body in a discreet rite. In 2026, an itinerant wake and an inauguration revived the idea once refused by a Texas artist, turning it into a tribute that travels from Texas to New Mexico and marks the shift from legend to memory. A gun sealed the legend of Billy the Kid. It wasn't his. In 1880, Pat Garrett took a Colt .44 from his gang. The following year, July 14, 1881, in Fort Sumner, the sheriff wielded it and killed the fugitive. A direct link to the Lincoln County War, the piece crossed time and in 2021 surpassed $6 million at auction. On May 10, 1869, at Promontory Summit, the Golden Spike ceremony sealed the link between Union Pacific and Central Pacific. Face-to-face, locomotives Jupiter and number 119 awaited the final strike. A golden spike joined the rails and inaugurated the United States Transcontinental Railroad, connecting the country by a coast-to-coast route. Benjamin Chavez and Emma Pepin Chavez, daughter of Sheriff George W. Pepin, embody rival sides of the Lincoln County War. Chavez led men alongside Billy the Kid, faced corrupt networks, and later became a strong political voice in New Mexico. But his trajectory ended up pushed to the margins of collective historical memory. Behind Billy, the Kid's jailer, lay shadows. J.W. Bell, killed by Billy in 1881 and treated as upright in New Mexico, takes on another contour in James Townsend's Find. Born in 1853 in Maryland, he went to Texas and in 1870 joined in Montague County the Brown Committee, which sustained power by murder and intimidation through force. In 1866, Oliver Loving and Charles Goodnight opened the trail that drove cattle from Texas to the Bosque Redondo Reservation, Fort Sumner, and later advanced toward Denver and Cheyenne. 100 years later, Larry McMurtry gave them lasting fame. Goodnight became a Western reference and protected the bison. Loving, dead in 1867, names towns and inspired Robert Duvall. Before Billy the Kid's supposed grave, Brushy Bill faces the curious and provokes, "They think they killed me and buried me as an outlaw, but they failed." His niece, Geneva Pittman, consults the family Bible. Roberts would have been born in 1879 in East Texas. If Billy died in 1881, he would have been only 2, just a boy, incapable of fleeing. On March 26, 1886, C.S. Fly recorded the scene. Yanosha standing beside Chapo, Geronimo's son, his half-brother Fun, and Geronimo himself on the Arizona border during surrender negotiations with U.S. troops. The deal collapsed. The fight resumed after new offensives, and exhausted, Geronimo agreed to surrender for good in September that year. In 1881, in the Arizona desert, young messenger Frederick Russell Burnham heard the proposal of Neil McLeod, a strong figure in Tombstone. With the Apaches on alert, the smuggler and boxer wanted to send word to partners in Sonora. Taking him as guide and a chance to learn, Burnham weighed the risks and decided to head south, ready for the crossing. Annie Oakley, a sharpshooter in Buffalo Bill's show, cut across the arena riding side saddle and performing numbers in a side saddle. The set featured a flat seat and a thick padded hook that held her leg against the horse's back, ensuring steadiness in maneuvers and setting the rhythm of the traveling show, where her precision captured the audience's gaze. At the Centennial Exposition in Philadelphia in 1876, Winchester unveiled the Centennial Model, a step beyond the 1873. On the world stage of repeating firearms, it introduced a reinforced lever and a chamber for larger cartridges, earning the name Model 1876. It met the frontier's needs, a repeater with greater range and impact, valuable to hunters and settlers. Idaho gained fame for potatoes, but it was trout that fed settlers since the 19th century. In cold rivers, varied species sustained families and commerce, while newspapers recorded the catches. In 1866, the Middle Boise Hotel served trout. In 1884, Dick's Big Three sold fresh trout, confirming good bites at the thaw. In 1915, the scene that would become an icon of rodeos, Bonnie McCarroll, captured by Ralph Doubleday at the Pendleton Roundup in Oregon. Upside down in the saddle, hair loose, she nearly grazes the packed ground. The bay silver leaps with arched back and clashing hooves, foreshadowing the fall and fixing the image in memory forever. In 1903, a photo captures Sundance Kid, Etta Place, and Butch Cassidy at the Cholula Ranch in Argentine Patagonia, near the Chilean border, preparing tea. After a string of robberies, they lived in exile and, for a moment, appear in a domestic scene. Sent to a relative, the image remained hidden for decades and only came to light in 1992. In 1901, Martha Calamity Jane Canary Burke appears before Tippis and tents, and in sequence joins the Indian Congress at the Pan American Exposition in Buffalo. Born in Missouri in 1856, she migrated with her family westward, grew up among gold mines in Montana, and came of age in Utah after losing her mother in Montana and her father in Utah. In the march westward, mining surpassed ranching and generated conflicts between owners and workers. In 1892, in Coeur d'Alene, guards killed 5 strikers. 100 strikebreakers were expelled. Federal troops arrested 600 without charge. The response came in May 1893, a meeting in Butte and the creation of the Western Federation of Miners. In Old West accounts, cowboys practiced roping at camp stops, honing techniques and sometimes showing tricks for the circle and testing skill. Oral tradition cites men with sharp hands for the riata. The tale of circling the bedroll with the rope against rattlesnakes reappears as an anecdote without documentary support. In his early years in Hollywood, Ben Johnson was cast in westerns both for his skill with horses and his screen presence. In The Image, he trains with Harry Carey Jr. in Roman riding at Monument Valley during the filming of Rio Grande, 1950, by John Ford, a landmark that secured his place as a stuntman actor in the cycle.